First, allow me to introduce the head of Live Nation Productions and the producer of tonight's film, Heather Parry. Hello, Heather. Thank you for being here. We got microphones and all kinds of stuff here. Yeah, right there would be great. And the founder of Bad Boy Records and CEO of Bad Boy Enterprises, Sean Diddy Combs. Come on.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
That is a terrific piece of work. Terrific piece of work.
Thank you.
And you know, I had this whole plan for this discussion, which I am now going to throw out now that I've seen this again, because I want to start at the end. And you made a choice to use Nina Simone at the penultimate moment of this film, where you know you're doing the show. It's great. It's big. It's everything I think that you would want it to be. And yet you chose to use Nina Simone's music. Tell me why.
You know, I think through the process, she really became my theme. What I was kind of selfishly searching for was to feel that freedom. You know, I didn't know how many more times I would have the chance to even be on the stage. Because I never planned on doing it, you know, I didn't plan on doing like Mick Jagger or anything like that. so I knew it was like, you know, it was maybe coming to a point where I need to be honest, and I wanted us all to like feel that feeling of freedom.
Yeah.
And so because she was such a big part of the theme of the preparation, you know, the director knew I really loved the music, and I was always like just playing her voice. And one day he said to me, I have something that's really beautiful, and because I just kind of described that, you know, I want the performance to be different than your regular like concert doc or anything like that. And he kind of showed me the cut of it, and you know, the way it translated to me, it was everything that you feel on stage. It was the best way to kind of I think showcase the feeling and emotion. So we picked the feeling and emotion over the traditional way of just kind of showing the concert, because it gave you the feeling, you know, and that's something that our music is about, is giving that feeling. So I always give the first respect to the feeling. So that's why we chose that direction.
Yeah, there's a sense of struggle and a sense of triumph, you know, that comes at the end. And you mentioned the director, Daniel Kaufman. He described the film as a fierce, and I love this quote, a fierce pursuit of the American dream. How do you guys describe? How do you describe the film? If you had to sum it up in a sentence, how would you describe it?
I'm gonna let you go first.
I was gonna say, I think the title is so appropriate of Can't Stop, Won't Stop, because Puff literally doesn't stop, doesn't take no for an answer. So I would sum it up as like it's a beautiful, legendary history of a man that just doesn't quit and just doesn't take no for the answer. And I think that is the American dream.
What about you?
For me, watching it was intense.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like my whole life, and it was kind of trippy, you know, and you know, it gave me a sense of pride too, you know. But for me, it was just kind of like, that's what the movie meant to me personally.
Well, you've been quoted as saying it was kind of like watching your life flash before your eyes.
Yes, definitely. But as Daniel Kaufman said, the director, it really shows the embodiment of the dream and the hustle, and you get to see that through a unfiltered lens.
When did you get involved in the process here? What was the chronology?
Well, I started working at MTV when I was 21, and that's when I met Puff. And so here we are many, 2 decades later. But I don't want to say many, that's bad.
You didn't have to say that, by the way.
I don't want to date
That's
myself,
okay.
but yeah. And I started working at Live Nation, and I started the Live Nation Productions, and they said, you know, we were going to do this Bad Boy reunion tour. And so I had seen Puff out And I go, we got to do this together. And he came in the
Yeah.
office for a meeting about the tour, and he actually called me into the meeting. He's like, should we do this? So we moved at lightning speed. We decided to do it, and we had like 3 weeks to find a director and put it on it and go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and the one thing I will say about this, and look, there have been plenty of artists who've done all kinds of documentaries about their life and work, and no pun intended here. Oftentimes they are puff pieces. Literally, I mean, they're meant to sort of build up the brand or build up the artist in some semi-contrived way. There's a lot of stuff in here that is not necessarily so positive. You know what I mean? I mean, there's struggle here, and I'm wondering for you as you put this together, was that hard for you? Was that hard for you to deal with the parts of your career and the thing, going through this that were not necessarily so easy or great?
I think some of my biggest records or hits of success has been when the artist is able to be vulnerable. And so I knew if I was going to step out in this type of medium, I'm a big documentary fan, and I want to get some emotion out of a documentary. So I don't like those puff pieces of the things that are kind of like self-serving. And I just wanted to tell the truth. And, I think it came out that way because I didn't direct it. Somebody else directed it and shot it,
Yeah.
and I basically said, I'm gonna trust you and I'm gonna go with the flow. And so that's what also happens when you work with great people and you trust another artist.
Yeah.
So
The one thing Daniel also talked about, your work ethic and how you push people to be their best. And I'm wondering what the collaborative relationship was between you and Daniel. How did you push him? Or did you push him?
Oh yes, I pushed him.
Absolutely, yes,
Heather is
yes,
nodding
absolutely.
like, oh yeah.
I mean, to me, it's about telling a story. If I'm gonna show a documentary, I want to make sure that he treated it like a feature film and not like a documentary. And he told a story that that wasn't so linear, because I don't think that way.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like jumping all over the place. And he kind of gave that, that reflection of what he really saw. But we kept on pushing and pushing, and I wanted it to be disruptive and for it to click on and off and everything like that. And he kind of got it. He kind of got that, the way to really get into my mind, the way it thinks, and this way it's all over the place.
Did he push you?
Yes, but in a good way, in the best way.
How so?
I mean, he challenges you to be your best, and sometimes it's rough, but it's always worth it. And when we were shooting the doc, it's a lot of long hours, and people are really tired, but it's all the stuff that's in there is so real and raw, and that's why it's not a puff piece, as you say. It's a real film.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, you've had long experience MTV, the music industry. How did that experience serve you in terms of starting this production company? And we talked earlier, you guys did a terrific job with that Eagles of Death Metal film about their return to the Bataclan. How does your background kind of help you create this environment for these kinds of films?
Yeah, well, I started working at MTV when I was 21, and I worked there for 12 years, so I sort of got those great golden years of MTV, and I ran the West Coast office of MTV News, so, and at that time, like, MTV covered music like CNN was covering war, so we just, every weekend I was on a plane and interviewing somebody and producing something. I got to know Puff there.
Yeah.
And I told this story before, but it's really funny that, when we had the Video Music Awards, every year we had a pre-show, and there was like, they book it really quick, and there wasn't another space, and Puff was like, you have to make another space, and they stupidly were like, okay, well, we have 2 spaces, we don't have 3 spaces, and in the middle of the live show, here comes Puff on a flatbed truck performing anyways. So I knew, like, that's a guy, like, I want on my side, I want on my team, I want to work with him. So I think I took all of that knowledge of who he is. And, in starting Live Nation Productions, I wanted to be really careful about the message we were sending, because Live Nation, represents lots of artists and does lots of tours. And I very carefully thought out that I don't want these to be puff pieces or EPK press kits. So the first film, which you mentioned, Eagles of Death Metal, we did, which was about their journey back to Paris after the attacks. And I was friends with Colin Hanks, and I knew he was going to do it. And I was like, we have to do this together, and we have to send that message. When life knocks you down, you get back up, and you don't quit, and you keep going. I think that was very important for our first doc.
So well done.
Yeah,
so well
thank you. And then, this doc was number 2, and I knew, I believe in him. Like, I knew that it was going to be real, and that was important to me, to set up to the audience, to the industry, to everybody, that this is the types of work we're going to do.
There's something that you talk about a couple times in the film, and you talk about messages that struck me and really stood out, and that's the concept of Black excellence, and always aspiring to Black excellence. Talk a little bit about that and why that was important to make sure that you brought it out in the film.
Well, through the journey, I was always having to deal with a narrative that somebody else had kind of put out there for my life to go. And, I wanted to change the narrative just in general of how hip-hop is perceived, and also we as Black men and women, how we're perceived based on like what we see through media or the constant images of negativity that we see. I wanted to change the narrative and show the new narrative of strength, of Black strength, of Black excellence, of shining a positive light on the positive things that we do, the magic that we have, the brilliance that we have, and do it in an unapologetic way.
Yeah.
And so that's how I've lived my life. And I think it was a theme also of just our style and swag as Bad Boy was, is and always will be, have that Black excellence vibe, always breaking records, always charting new territory. And so it's really like putting a spotlight on that magic.
There's a couple of stylistic choices in the film that I have to ask you about. The past, and this seems to be reversed to me, the past is in color, and the present is in black and white, which normally it would be reversed. Why make that choice?
It was during a time, like, my whole look visually on my Instagram and like the little shorts that I do was all in black and white. Yeah. And I think the director kind of picked up on that, but it was his just creativity of utilizing how I kind of saw my life, sometimes in black and white and in color. And, these are all like his brilliant ideas and translations of how he saw me. So it's there because I didn't direct the movie.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it would have been in. It may have been in 4D or something. I would have probably overdid it. Had everybody with the 4D glasses. And like, really, Puff?
I have to think it's super cool. I mean,
I love it.
I love the way that the whole thing looks. There are quick cuts, and then there aren't, and that jumping back and forth between black and white and color is fantastic.
I want to say we purposely wanted to shake up the music documentary game because I felt like we as artists, we have deeper stories to tell than, okay, we're just getting them, we're just going on tour, or okay, just follow me, I'm making an album. That's kind of boring to me. I want to get into the nitty gritty. I want to get into I want to see everything. I want to see I've invested in these artists. You invested in Bad Boy, and so I just wanted just to tell the truth uncut, but do it in a way where our lives are so crazy that you could look at yourself shooting a documentary. And I always told them I'm not shooting a documentary. I'm a feature film type motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He said that a lot.
Yeah, I said that a lot.
Did he remind you of that?
He reminded us not to be ordinary and that to keep everybody's attention
Right.
span standing and on their
Yeah.
toes. So yeah.
Yeah. Why? It's actually interesting that you chose this reunion to tell a much larger story. Was that always the intention, or did you get into it and realize, whoa, wait a minute, there's something much bigger here?
Yes. We definitely just intended to do something around the reunion. But as we spent time with each other, there was so much growth and so many unanswered questions, unhad conversations, that all of that started to happen just naturally. And the way we shot it, I told them that they can't really shoot it the way they, shoot a schedule of a regular, documentary. So that's when me and Heather would get into it, because
I was just going to say, and how much did that drive you crazy, Heather?
It didn't drive me crazy. We definitely had moments, but again, it's you do it for the good of the film, and
Yeah.
so I think it was we were in rehearsals and you saw all this family reuniting and there were these stories to tell, and Puff had the vision from when he was 16, 17. You started filming yourself, so it's like, wait, where all? I remember my MTV days. I'd always see him with a camera, so it's like, where's all that stuff? And he remembered all these great gems, and we would find all these great pieces, and people in the Bad Boy family and the Bad Boy offices were like, wait, there's this piece of footage. So that was a very collaborative effort.
Yeah, and one thing I got to say, wherever you rehearsed that out in Pennsylvania, did they land that's like they landed that rehearsal stage on the moon.
By the way,
It seems like
grew up.
Is that in the middle of nowhere?
It literally, they said there's this big black box in the middle of nowhere, and I was driving, and I got there a couple days later than Puff, and literally it was no joke. There's it's in Pennsylvania, and there's an Amish horse and buggy going, and then I see it looks like a motorcade. It's black SUVs, and then I see Puff in a shiny sweatsuit on his bike, riding to work, and I don't think that town has ever been the same, but
it was a plastic bag.
yeah.
Well, and the one thing about doing this, some of these people had not seen each other, correct me if I'm wrong, for 16 or 17 years. Did you have, well, you must have been wondering, oh my God, how is this going to work out?
Yeah, I was definitely a fly on the wall. I'm like, what's about to go on here? I was like, y'all just need to keep these cameras rolling. This is going to be interesting.
Were there particular people that you were concerned about, without calling anybody out, but...
No, I wasn't. I knew everybody. Everybody was always respectful. So I knew that if they would come in, they were coming to get along and to get together. But I just wanted to see it naturally unfold.
Mm-hmm.
I really just kind of stand back. I let everybody have their own relationships. But I wanted to see how Little Kim and Faith was going to end up. And it was just total. It was overwhelming, because to get a chance to do that, or to even have a film like this, while you're still happy and alive and young and feeling good is a blessing, because usually it may happen when you're not here or something. So to get together with your family and the people you have the dream with, and to be able to just sit there and look at this is what we were able to do with our lives. And we're still here, together. It's truly a blessing and incredible.
And still creating and still evolving, in a positive way. I'm wondering, as you look back, especially in light of the film, are there moments that stand out for you, or whether it's on stage or in the studio? I mean, it's 20 years or more since No Way Out. What if you had to think of one thing, what stands out for you?
Just one thing?
Yeah, or you could list 10, I'm sure, or 100.
I would say, as it pertains to this, it's the look on people's faces, because people get to look at me, but I also get to look at everybody else. And so it's the joy that these records bring, and you see on people's faces. It's a different type of vibe. It's all teeth. Everybody's hands in the air, and it's just like to be able to have the power to give people that type of like soulful, like good feeling, like cookout. We all in here together, vibe. It's special. It's special to see so many people smiling. And I just remember, just anytime I would go out, it's just that feeling of just coming up out the ground and seeing people's faces, like they're being entertained.
Yeah, and there's an emotional thread that runs through, and that's Biggie, and your relationship with him. And it strikes me, just as an observer, that in an emotional sense, this was arguably the most important part of the film, was your relationship with him. Important to you to make sure that got expressed correctly?
I guess that's so. I'm so honest with that I guess I never worry about that part because that's just the way it is. It's not. I'm not putting on for the cameras or like, let me talk about Biggie right here. However it happens, that's just the way it is. It's such an important figure in my life and the life of the artist, and I think he's respected and honored in the right way. It feels like, like a brother that was lost, and you just really really keeping his spirit alive. I mean, his spirit is just alive through us anyway, but it's something that kind of fuels us.
And Heather, we've been talking about kind of the cultural relevance of Bad Boy and the artists and the legacy. Why is it important for your company to tell these kind of culturally relevant stories? There's all kinds of stories that you could tell. Why these?
I mean, I think I listen to the audience, and for me, I came up in my career watching everything Bad Boy, and I saw the things, and everything was a great story about them. So I look for, when I'm trying to do something, I look for what's the great storytelling moment of it.
Yeah.
So this to me was that. And by the way, when we were like, my favorite moment of the whole process is like we were sitting in the mix, Puff and I, and the sound mixer was ahead of us, and we're sitting there alone, and he would look at the end of the movie, and he'd be so happy, and he'd be like, I can't believe this is my life. And you'd look at that one part with you and Biggie, and you're like, I can't believe I'm alive. Like, this is like, every time he watched that part, he was so moved. And that for me as a producer is the vindication that I want, because it's real. And when you get that reaction that's so raw from an artist, that's where I want to live.
Right. Fair warning. I'm going to ask for a couple questions from the house here in just a minute. But I have to ask you, because you've talked often, because you're not just a label owner, you're an entrepreneur, you are in media, your lifestyle, you did awfully well with vodka, with this stuff as well. And you've talked often about building a team and the importance of having a team around you. Tell us a little bit about that, how you came to that philosophy, where you learned that.
I would say, I was driving myself crazy because I was, at a certain point, I was such a control freak that, I was getting overwhelmed, and I had to, in order for me to go to another level, I had to know that I had to trust other people, and it's kind of hard, for you to trust people, but when you put good people around you and you trust them and you motivate them, I think you get more out of a situation than than whatever fears or insecurities I had about trust. So I just knew I needed to, in order to go to another level, it wasn't going to be about me. It was going to be about we and the team that I had around me.
Yeah. And as you're building a relatively new company, a couple of years old, what did you learn from working with him?
So much, but just persistence, and that you don't have to agree with someone for stuff to be great. And that's when the best part of the process comes out, that everybody has an opinion that's valuable to bring to the table. So, Puff taught me when we would show the movie, we would show assistants, we would show anybody that was we wanted feedback of what people were feeling because the audience was really important to us.
Yeah. So speaking of the audience,
Yes.
and it's a fine, lovely group assembled here. Yes, right here.
So I had the privilege of being able to be at the LA show, the last show you guys did. It was lit. Is there any plan to put the concert on a DVD, put it out for people so they can see it? Because I'm telling you, you didn't go to that show.
Yes. Well, thank you for coming. Yeah, we definitely we shot that, and to be honest, we had to finish Can't Stop, Won't Stop. And so, no, but we've been editing footage from that, and we're gonna show it on Revolt, the whole entire like Thanksgiving or something like that.
Right there. Yes, sir.
I was fired, so I didn't really have no choice to be, but to be prepared.
Needed a gig.
Yeah, I was like, he's writing me a check. I'm like, I'm not getting this close to it, and it not go down. And it was when I met Clive, we didn't talk about money and we didn't talk about business, and we just talked about music. And then I was like, I don't care what happens. I know that I could do great things with him.
Good question.
What did I learn about myself? I really learned to like appreciate things, because so many times it felt like it could be taken away. And I think that appreciation, I think sometimes, I know sometimes when you get successful, you forget that sometimes because you get used to it. And so as she was saying, like I'm looking at the film, I can't believe that's my life. And it's like, this thing is going to have a happy ending. And I think it's what it's also what you put out there. But yeah, I'm just so blessed. I'm so blessed. And that's what I would say, that every second I can, I walk in that gratitude.
Way in the back. Way in the back.
I think there were unique circumstances, and I think that we were all young, and we all it kind of was a family vibe, and and I didn't really I wasn't looking at it as just a business, and so right now, like, it's kind of hard to find that. That's a unique thing, and I would say keep it business. I would say, like, the best advice is to keep it business. But if you find that special chemistry, that special group of people, it goes far beyond the music or the success we've had. So that friendship and that family is really true.
Right here.
When you were looking back at the footage, whether it be in the editing process or the final footage, did you see in the past, when you looked at some of that past footage, did you remember any fears that you had at that past time? And if so, what were they?
Yeah, no, I didn't have any fears from any of the older footage. As you get older, you get successful. Sometimes all of a sudden, I was talking to a friend of mine that's on tour now, and they were like, I took a couple of years off, and this is like a top person in the game, and and they were like, sometimes I was going on stage and you may start to get a little bit of anxiety, and it's just because the pressure, you keep building yourself up to do a better and a better and a better show, and it's what was I saying? What was the rest of the song?
Worry.
I get when I do these question and answer things, by like the 12th one, I start to forget.
Looking at the old footage and
Yeah.
thinking about whether you were nervous or concerned or
Yeah,
anxious.
I had,
at that point.
I didn't have any fears, really at that point, to be honest. I didn't really have a lot of fears. I developed certain fears as I got older, and when the stakes became higher. And then through all of the stuff that I had went through, I was kind of traumatized too.
Well, some of that is also kind of the comfort of just not knowing what's right, wrong, or indifferent. You're just doing what you think is best, because you don't know the rules at that point.
Yeah, and that worked against me, and it worked against me. It worked for me and worked against me too. So,
Yeah. We got time for a couple more. Yes, sir, right here.
What was it like having your kids process your life? Obviously they were alive in the early years. What was it like to watch them see their dad's life unfold?
oh yeah, that was interesting because they didn't really realize, and so I got a lot of love there. It's like, I'm happy you my daddy, man.
Ah! So I have to ask you. You're the father of twins. Jay-Z just had twins. Any advice for him?
Just get ready for double the love. It's truly a blessing. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we got time for one more. Yes, right there.
In light of what happened on Sunday in Las Vegas, do you think it's going to change the way you're going to move forward with touring?
No.
Good. Good. So, last question. When you were a boy, did this dream of the life that you've lived seem possible?
Yes.
And when you were young and imagining kind of where you would go, what were the kinds of things you were thinking about?
I was thinking about everything that my life has turned out to be. And I would say it's true manifestation, just to empower that in you, but not saying like I knew it all, but I knew that this would happen.
Well, it's
I
remarkable.
think we all do know.
Yeah.
I think we all do inside. I just think I just embraced that.
Yeah, it's a remarkable film. Can't stop, won't stop, a bad boy story. I get the feeling the story's continuing, and we look forward to many additional chapters. But many thanks to Heather Perry and Sean Combs for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank y'all for your time. Thank you very much.